Welcome to the Ben Mulroney Show, and thank you for joining us on Tuesday, July 8th. It has been a great start to the week. I can say that confidently because last night I enjoyed the first Canadian screening of Superman on an IMAX screen with my kids. And while I can't give my full review yet because it's under embargo and I do not want to upset the hosts, Warner Brothers, because I'd like to get invited back to a movie, suffice it to say that I'm going back to see another advanced screening on Thursday. That should tell you all you need to know about whether or not I enjoyed my time at this first foray by James Gunn into the DCU, where he intends to build out an entire cinematic universe. Our Prime Minister intends to build out the one Canadian economy. But in order to do that, it's going to require investment and it's going to require choices. You'll remember last week on this show, we talked about how this Prime Minister has written a lot of checks, and I don't know that we have the funds to cash those checks. During the election campaign, he asked Canadians to trust him with $130 billion in new spending. And that was before he agreed, at least verbally, to join Donald Trump in his very ambitious Golden Dome missile defense system of North America. This was before he announced that we would, as a nation, achieve our 2% of GDP military commitment for NATO, and with an additional 3% in broadly military spending. As Warren Kinsella pointed out, that if you build a road that leads to a military base, that would fall under that additional 3% that we're going to get to over the course of, let's call it, a decade. But you throw all of that together onto a spreadsheet, and Canada is on the hook for a sizable increase in government spending. A lot of it, as I just said, I agree with. A lot of it is real investment. It will yield benefits for us. It will bring more money back in. And so I'm in line with a lot of this, generally speaking, spending. I haven't seen the budget yet, but they are gearing up, right? The Liberal government is gearing up for their first ever budget. And with so much new spending, there will be cuts that will be required. And so he has sent out directives to his ministries. Find cuts, find ways to save money, because cuts are coming. And I'd rather them be your choice than my choice. You're not going to like it if it's my choice necessarily. Here's the problem. His cabinet, by and large, is made up of people who fought and governed under Justin Trudeau. And it reminds me of a story of a friend of mine, someone I know, who is younger than me, and they were at school in Boston during the rise of Facebook. And the way Facebook worked is Harvard students were the first to gain access to Facebook. And after they conquered Harvard, every university in Boston was given one of these Facebook accounts, early access. And this guy that I know used Facebook, as most people did, as a way to meet girls. And so later on in life, I noticed that he wasn't using Facebook anymore. And I said, why aren't you using Facebook? You were one of the first people to gain access to it. And he said, well, here's the problem. If you use something, if you're used to using something as a sword, you can't then turn it into a shield. And I was used to using it in a particular way, and I couldn't just turn that off and turn something else on. If your habit is to do one thing, it's really hard to form a new habit. These ministers that were tried and tested under Justin Trudeau formed habits under Justin Trudeau that I don't know that they can break. You know, they see a sword, they don't see a shield. And so if you ask people who for 10 years spent money that was not their money and spent money that did not yet exist to the point that we had to print more and were partially responsible in their own ways of adding more money to the national debt than all previous governments combined, and then on a dime you ask them to become penny pinchers, I don't know that you are going to see the results from a self-audit that you are hoping to see. This is like, I don't want to say use consultants, because this government, on top of adding more bureaucrats to the government than we need, they've been spending money on outside consultants in a way that I've never seen. What's an outside consultant going to be that 100,000 new bureaucrats couldn't do? But if ever there was a need for an outsider to come in and do an audit so that we can get a dispassionate view of what's being spent and what we need money for, it's this. And so I don't know that at the end result of this is going to be anything more than performative cuts, because in a lot of cases, these are the people who got us into the fiscal mess that we're in today. So I'm going to be watching with great concern and honestly a cynical eye that these guys are going to be able to do what the new guy says they need to do. If they are able to do it, kudos to them, tip of the hat to them. But I suspect that when they come back and say, well, here's where we think we can do better, you're going to have think tanks and you're going to have experts poring over those results and saying, yeah, how come you didn't look at that and this and that and this and that pet project and this check that goes out every month? So anyway, that is something to pay attention to. I want to spend some time right now talking about the dinner that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister from Israel, had with Donald Trump. Here is what he offered him and gifted him at the beginning of dinner.
I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well-deserved, and you should get it.
Thank you very much. This I didn't know. Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming from you in particular, this is very meaningful. Thank you very much, baby.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. It's a great honor.
All right. That's the anti-Zalinsky. That's the opposite of Volodymyr Zelensky. We remember the dressing down that he got, which I thought was wrong on every level. I thought the hosts behaved boorishly to a man who's trying to defend his country against Russian aggression. But Zelensky could have done things differently. Zelensky should have known what house he was going into and who the resident of that house was and what he responds to. And he should have said, and this is not my idea, I heard this from someone else, Mr. President, on behalf of the thankful people of Ukraine, whom you have stood by as we have faced down the tyranny of Vladimir Putin, I come bearing gifts, a gift of thank you, a gift unlike any our country has ever bestowed on anyone else. It is the highest civilian honor that we can offer anyone who is not Ukrainian. And it is so special, in fact, that we had to invent it for you. It did not yet exist. This is how much we value you and the commitment by your government to help us in our time of need. And he would have brought out a giant box, and in that giant box would have been the biggest gold medal you have ever seen. That is how you get on Donald Trump's side. You flatter him. You flatter him. And it works. And he didn't do that. And that's why, in part, he got Zelensky. Bibi Netanyahu did everything he needed to do to keep his greatest ally on his side. Will he get the Nobel Peace Prize? I don't know. That's actually beside the point. But he gifted the man something he knew he would appreciate. And I guarantee you, the talks afterwards went a lot better than Zelensky's. Thanks so much for watching the show. Now, if you enjoyed what you saw, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode of The Ben Mulroney Show.